पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे Paramanandamaadhavam. By the infinite grace of Lord Krishna and Sri Ramakrishna, we will continue to study the Gita, the Bhagavadgita, the song Celestial, and we are at verse number 61. The verse number 60 says, Yatato hepi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Even the wise man had this trouble of the mental control or the control of the mind. Here the vipaschitaha means one who is well learned, may not be spiritually advanced. They think they know everything and they can do whatever we want. Such kind of well-learned people, scholars, are referred here as vipaschitaha. That kind of person, vipaschitaha purusha, even though he is striving his best in the spiritual path, yatataha api, even in his case, pramathini indriyani. Pramathini means very turbulent, very restless. Indriya, the senses, will take away the mind. Manaha haranti, will take away the mind violently, forcefully. Prasabham. So this is the problem eternal of the humankind. So we have senses and we have mind. Unfortunately, the mind is unable to control the senses. The senses are always moving towards the objects of their experiences. That is why they are called the indriyas. Every indriya or the sense has got the respective object. As I told you repeatedly in these classes, the eyes have got an object called the form. The ears have got an object called the sound. So eyes are always moving towards the object called the form. The ears are always moving towards the object called the sound. That is how we experience the external world. We are only interested in experiencing the external world. We care very less for our own mind and to internalize the experiences. So we have two kinds of experience. One is the experience of the external world and the experience of our own spiritual nature. It is not that introvert. We call someone as introvert. He is introvert means he doesn't talk, that's all. He may not be a spiritual person at all. So the real introvert people, the spiritual people, they are satisfied with their own Atman or the God within them. They feel the presence of God within them or divinity within them. They are always satisfied. Atmani Atmanev Atmana Tushtaha. So this experience is nobler, greater than the experience we have in the external world. So the psychological analysis of this is the senses are going towards the object. That is the very nature of the senses. We cannot order the eyes to go inside. They are always going outside. And so all other senses. But unfortunately, they take our mind also with that. When the eyes are seeing an object, the mind also follows that. So we have three entities here: objects externally, external objects, and senses go towards it, and mind also follows it. Mind develops either attraction or repulsion towards something we experience through the senses. This is how we experience everything. All our experiences happen. But all our experiences are combined with a kind of attachment and the revulsion. Some experiences we feel good, some experiences we feel very bad. Those experiences which are favorable to us, in which we feel very good, are very comfortable, we develop attachment towards them. That is what is called sukha, or the pleasure, or the happiness. In some experiences, we develop a kind of uncomfortability. We are not comfortable with that because the experience is not favorable to us. That kind of experiences we develop aversion, dvesha, and we call such experiences as dukkha or the misery. As far as the experiences themselves are concerned, there is no sukha and dukkha in those experiences at all. And sukha and dukkha are just the reactions of the mind when we experience something. Some experiences will result into a reaction called the sukha. Some experiences will result into a kind of mental reaction called the dukkha. That's all. They are very much relative. So this is how the mind is carried away by the senses in the every minute of our waking state. It doesn't happen when we are dreaming or when we are in deep sleep. It happens only in the Jagrut Avastha, in the waking state. So sometimes we experience happiness, sometimes we are miserable. So the experiences continue giving various types of sensations in our mind, reactions, produce reactions, and they are also transformed into samskaras or the impressions in our mind. So this is the way of the mundane world or the empirical world, ordinary life. Even a wise man cannot resist, control it. The senses are very powerful. They take away the mind to their respective objects. This is what Krishna is conveying to us. Then what is the way out? Krishna says in the next sloka, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasya indriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. If you want to avoid recurring experiences that we call some experiences as happy experiences, some experiences as the miserable experiences. As I told you, there is no misery or happiness in experiences themselves. It is all our reaction in the mind. If we hate some experiences because they are unfavorable, they are not very comfortable to us, they are called the kleshas that give suffering. Some experience we want them to repeat, we want to undergo that experiences again and again. That is called the happy experiences, that's all. Then what is the way out? Tani sarvani samyamya. Tani means all the senses have to be controlled. So we have a beautiful verse in Kata Upanishad. That verse says, the senses are made like this, they are all extrovert. But the wise man, Dhira, a spiritual person, he controls them and make them inward. So they all externally going senses are to be curbed and they have to be made inward. The yoga says the senses experiences, what with external experiences, to be internalized in the mind. That means we are no longer should be aware of those things which give us happiness and misery. That is what we call meditation. That is what we do in meditation. We no longer want the external experiences through the senses. We try to internalize everything. We try to withdraw these sensations and merge into our mind. And in turn, mind should be focused. Mind should be concentrated on the Ishta Devata or the chosen deity. So there are two steps in meditation. Actually, there are three steps according to the Patanjali Yoga. One is the withdrawing of the mind, pratyahara it is called. That is what Krishna is proposing us in this verse. Tani sarvani sanyamya. So there is no other way except to sanyamya. Sanyamya means bringing them under control. And what we have to do afterwards, once we bring them into control, means making them introvert. That is what pratyahara. So we can make a comparative study of what Krishna has told here in the Yoga Shastra. That is what withdrawing the mind called pratyahara. And afterwards, dharana. We have to focus, we have to concentrate on the object of our meditation. That is called dharana. Suppose we are meditating on Sri Ramachandra, we have to withdraw our senses. Of course, we close our eyes, but what about our ears and what about other thoughts in our mind? From everything we have to withdraw and focus on the blissful form of Lord Ramachandra. That blissful form should be living form. It is not an image. It is full of consciousness. So we have to focus on it. That is called a dharana. And dharana should be a continuous process without break. And that is what is called the dhyana. That's what Krishna is hinting here in this verse when he says yukta. Yukta means one who is in the state of yoga is called the yukta here. He should be steadfast. Not just controlling the senses is enough. One has to concentrate it. We have to be established in yoga. In fact, the literal meaning of the yoga is concentration. Yoga has two meanings. Both in Gita, the yoga is used in both the meanings. One is the union with God is called yoga. Another, the concentration of the mind is also called yoga. Here yukta means one who is established in yoga is called yukta. The first step is withdrawing the mind from all the indriyas have to be controlled, and yukta, one should establish oneself in the yoga of the concentration. Matparaha asita, on which we have to concentrate. That is the next step. We have to concentrate on Lord Bhagavan only. There cannot be other object of meditation. In yoga allows any kind of object of meditation. No specific instruction is given in the Yoga Shastra. But in Bhagavadgita, Lord says, you have to concentrate on me and me alone. And I should be, I Bhagavan, Lord Vasudeva, should be the object of meditation. That's why the Matpara word is used. But in 12th chapter also Matpara word is used. There I should be the motive for every kind of work. Matvarma krut, matparaha. Two words are very important there. There my motive for all of your work should be me. The goal of all work should be Bhagavan. Here Matpara means the object of meditation, the goal of meditation, goal of concentration should be Bhagavan and Bhagavan alone. So it is not an ordinary kind of meditation or the concentration we are speaking here. So we have to meditate following the guidelines of our Guru on God and the God alone. Matparaha asita. This is also very significant. Asita means you have to sit. Sitting position is something where we don't move at all. We cannot do meditation while walking or running. You have to sit down. So sitting is somewhat equivalent to the meditation. You should remain concentrated. You should remain steadfast. You should not allow your mind to waver here and there. This will come out from the word asita. You have to sit. You have to remain in that position for a long time. If someone is able to do that, that person who is able to keep the indriyas under control. I already told you why indriyas ought to be controlled. Vashehi yasya indriyani, whose indriyas are under control. Not only in the state of meditation, when we are meditating, but in all kinds of experiences. The senses ought to be controlled. There is no other way at all. So one who succeeds, one who is perfect in the state of complete control over the senses. Vashehi yasya indriyani. So naturally his prajna or the consciousness, awareness. Here prajna doesn't refer to ordinary type of awareness or the consciousness. Here prajna refers to the prajna of the Atman or the God. So he remains in the state of God consciousness. His intellect or the mind is merged in the state of God's consciousness or the consciousness which he derives from its own Atman, and such is called Tatsya Prajna Pratishtita. So the basic requirement is to control the senses. Without controlling the senses, establishing oneself in the awareness of Atma. Pratishta means establishing oneself, merging oneself in a steadfast manner without allowing the mind to waver, without allowing the mind to follow the senses. And such person, one who is able to control the senses, will be able to keep his mind merged in the God's consciousness or in the Atmic consciousness. His mind is, or the consciousness is said to be very well established. Pratisthita means very well established in Atman or the God. So not just establishing is told here. His mind is established means our mind should be established in God or the Atman. So here we get beautiful tips or the hints about the process of meditation. This kind of state of mind should not be confined to the time of meditation alone. We do meditation for an hour or two in the morning or evening. We try to do. But the state of mind should continue during the whole day. Whenever our mind becomes restless, whenever we feel the mind is going towards outside, following the senses and its objects, we should try to control the mind, withdraw the mind, and we should merge the mind in the God consciousness. This is what is called in the common parlance the remembering God. We can remember God always in whatever we are doing. A part of the mind should be devoted to God and God alone. This is what Sri Ramakrishna said. When you are having a toothache, part of your mind is always dwell on that toothache. But you have continue to do all works. In the same way, in daily life, a part of the mind should be devoted to God and God alone. And slowly and steadily, and Krishna himself says in the Gita, Shanai Shanaihi Uparataha, slowly and steadily, we have to increase the intensity of remembrance of God. So the basics, fundamental of remembering God or the basics of spiritual life is spelled out in this beautiful verse. If we don't meditate, if we don't control the mind, if we allow the mind to go restless, if we allow the mind follow the senses and senses in turn go towards the objects, that's what we have already read in the second chapter. Avyavasayatmika buddhihi. Vyavasayatmika buddhi is one-pointed. That trait of mind always follows one object or one goal towards one goal. But avyavasayatmika buddhi is multi-branched. So many desires arise in our mind, and mind follows that objects of the desires. So there are 2-3 branches, basic fundamental branches, and Thakur Sri Ramakrishna identifies as Kamini Kanchana, that money and the lust, and that particular desire will branch out into hundreds of desires, thousands of desires. That's why Krishna says Avyavasayatmika is multi-branched. That's why we become very restless when we are filled with desires. There is no other way for us except to control the senses, and when we are controlling the senses, automatically we are controlling the mind also. Because when we allow the mind to go behind the senses, that is what is called the extrovertness. Mind becoming extrovert, mind becoming filled with desires, etc. So what is the result when we allow the mind go astray like that? These two verses, what we are reading now, are very important. It gives us psychological idea how we get into trouble in our daily life. How many people feel miserable and they spoil their lives. Krishna gives a sequence of things, how it happens. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangaha Teshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Dhyayataha. So we are walking in the market, or Gandhi Bazaar is very nearby. So it is good to give that example of Gandhi Bazaar. So there are wonderful shops, showrooms on the both sides of the road. We get attracted to one or two things. Maybe some very attractive cloth or the electronic gadgets or something like that. We have seen hundreds of things when we walk around the streets of Gandhi Bazaar, but we get attracted towards one or two things. That is very important. We continue to think about them, how nice the gadgets was, how nice the saree was, how nice the clothes was, how nice the shoe was. This is what is meant by dhyayataha. It has nothing to do with meditation here. We are meditating on those things which have attracted us in the course of the day. This dhyayataha vishayan. So what we have heard, what we have seen, what we have touched, these are all vishayas, or the objects of the senses. We continue to think about it. Very interesting thing is, the experience of seeing happens only once, maybe for a fraction of a second. But we mull over it. We continue to repeat that experience of seeing in our mind. That is what is dangerous. That is what is catastrophic psychologically. If we have seen some bad things once and forget about it, that experience is over, completed, then there will be no problem at all. But we don't do it. We contemplate on that. We remember that, goes on thinking. And morning somebody abuses us. They use only one or two words. It may happen for only 1 second or 2 seconds. But whole day we are upset. What is the need of us upsetting like this? Because we recreate that scene again and again and again and again in our mind. That is the problem. So this is what is called here dhyayataha. Seeing happens only once, but we recreate that seeing again and again and again and again. If it is good, we are attracted towards it. If it is something bad, we hate it. Hating or hatred is also a kind of attraction. In negative terms, that's all. We remember two things. When we are very much attracted towards something, we continue to remember it. When we hate something, that also we remember it. Hatred should be very intense, then we remember more. Take the example of Kamsa. Kamsa hated Krishna like anything. But Kamsa is the he avidly remembering Lord Krishna. Day and night he would remember. That's why Krishna sent him to Vaikuntha itself by killing him. Because at least he was remembering me. So this is what is called dhyayataha. So what we are thinking about, vishayan, what we see, what we hear, everything. Then what happens? If we go on thinking about it, sangaha teshu upajayate, we get connected with that. As I told you, hundreds of things we see, But we get connected, we get attached to one or two things. That's all. That is what is called Sangaha. Shankaracharya beautifully explains Sangha as the asakti, our liking. Emotionally, psychologically, we get related to that. And we develop love for that, preeti. That is the consequence of our thinking about that object. Thinking leads to sangha, attachment, love for that object. So what is the harm? No harm, no problem. It doesn't stop there. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha. So that kind of psychological connectedness or the asakti or preeti makes us desire for that object. We may not be able to afford that. Suppose if we develop a attachment towards a very expensive car, then we feel desire for that car. Then we will be in misery. We cannot afford that. We cannot buy that. Desire. So desire doesn't arise instantly like that. Desire is not something independent sentiment. First thinking about objects and attachment towards the objects, and then only desire arises, according to Lord Krishna. So what is the problem there? Kamatu krodhaha abhijayate. This is the problem starts here. In many cases, we are not able to fulfill that desire. There is desire in our mind to buy that car. Because when we saw the car in the showroom, we were thinking about that car, and we had developed attachment towards that car, love towards car, asakti towards that car, and that asakti or sangha developed into kama, desire. So desire is obstructed due to our economic conditions. I am not able to afford the car. There may be several impediments in buying that car and having that car. Then what happens? Naturally, the krodha, the anger comes. Then what is kama and what is krodha? Further, in the Gita itself, Krishna says, kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajoguna samudbhavaha. There is no two things here. There is only one thing, one passion, one propensity. Sometimes it is called kama, sometimes it is called krodha. I have a desire to drink coffee in the early morning, I don't get it. So I develop krodha. The same kama, when it is obstructed, when you are unable to fulfill the desire, transforms into krodha. The verse is over now. The story is not yet over. It continues in the next verse. What happens when we get the anger? Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammohat smruti vibhramaha. Smruti bhramshat buddhinashaha. Buddhinashat pranashyati. This is the way to destruction. The krodha will not remain as krodha. It will develop into sammoha. Acharya Shankara defines sammoha as aviveka. Not able to discriminate what is good and what is bad. We are in pursuit of getting what we want. We develop anger. And then we develop delusion. I want that. Whatever means, I want that car. Even by stealing money, I will get that car. So I have lost the balance of the mind. Karya, akarya, vishayaha. Karya means what I am supposed to do. Akarya means what I am not supposed to do. When I lose the discrimination, that is what is called the sammoha. Then sammoha develops into smruti vibhramaha. So we are all very learned people, educated people. From the childhood, we are instructed about what to do and what not to do. We have learned moral lessons. We are cultured people. We are civilized people. We just forget everything what we have learnt about ethics and morality. That is what is called smruti vibhramaha. At this time of crisis, what we have learned and what we are educated in, our good samskaras should have helped us in controlling the mind, controlling our anger, controlling our passion. In many cases, it will not happen because man is hankering for the things of the world. He is craving for that. He is battling out in whole life to get some things which he wants. He just forgets whatever he has learnt good, spiritual. Nothing comes in his mind. Smruti vibhramaha. Vibhrama, Acharya says, when there is supposed to get the smruti of good things we have learned, when the smruti memory doesn't come, that is called vibhrama. Smruti is supposed to come. When I am in a crisis, when I am following a wrong path, the smruti, my upbringing, my education, what I have learnt in my family from gurus, that should have saved me, protected me. But in many cases, we just forget it. Smruti was supposed to help us. Then the smruti doesn't arise, the memory doesn't come to us and help us. We fail to follow the guidelines we are instructed in our life, moral instructions, religious instructions, spiritual guidelines. We just forget everything. So this is smruti vibhramaha. Smruti bhramshat buddhi nashaha. What is buddhi? There are two meanings of buddhi. One is the normal meaning, another is the good meaning or the which has got more significance. The normal meaning is one who is able to grasp something, able to memorize, able to understand something. He is called intellectual. His intellect is more than others. This is a very ordinary way of understanding what is intellect. But in our scriptures, in Vedanta, buddhi means viveka. Buddhi, ordinary intellect is not spoken here. Buddhi means viveka. Viveka means able to discriminate what is good and bad in ordinary life. But in Vedanta, buddhi means able to discriminate what is real and what is not real. God alone is real, everything is unreal. Atman or Brahman alone is real, everything real. This is the viveka. One who has this is said to be buddhiman or the dhira. Dhi means buddhi. One who has dhi is called dhira. So here, when we lose that power of discrimination due to loss of memory, and naturally we will lose the power of discrimination also. What is buddhi? Is nothing but able to discriminate. If we don't discriminate, which we don't discern, so our existence is next to brutes or the animals. What is the difference between human beings and the animals? Animals do not have this viveka or the buddhi. Human beings is said to be civilized, cultured only because of its buddhi. Due to loss of memory, we lose our intellect, we lose the power of discrimination or distinguishing what is good and what is bad, what is real and what is not. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. As long as you are living with the buddhi, viveka, then you are said to be living a life. What is life? Life is not something organic. Life is not something limited to continuation of the life force in the body. I have prana, I continue to live. It is not like that. So we will be, at this stage, we will be worse than even animals. So, pranashyati means when the antakarana loses its power to discriminate, to do what is needed and what is not needed, what to do and what not to do, then the very existence of the very life on this earth is as if wasted away. Swami Vivekananda says in the very first sentence of his Karma Yoga, this life is for the sake of acquiring knowledge. Knowledge is the goal of life, not the pleasures. So if we go after the pleasures, this will be the condition. The life is wasted away. Pranashyati. Pranashyati, the complete destruction of the human life. Because human life was supposed to be meant for acquiring knowledge of God, going towards the God, developing viveka, developing jnana, developing bhakti. But when it goes on the exactly opposite path, that is what is called the destruction. So we can understand this by quoting another verse from the Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad says, Shreyascha preyascha manushya metaha. So there is a man, two paths are in front of him. One is the path of goodness that will lead to moksha or the God realization. Another path leads to destruction. Preya is the path which leads to destruction. The Shreya is the path that leads to ultimate good. So it is for the man to choose that, whether he wants the path of Shreya or the Shreya. So what happens when we follow the path of Preya, or the worldly prosperity, worldly enjoyment, worldly pleasure? In these two verses, Krishna vividly, graphically shows. So majority of us are moving towards the destruction. It is nothing but destruction. We have infinite capability, infinite potential to manifest our divinity. We are unable to do that. We are not even aware of our potential. Ishavasya Upanishad says, such people are killing themselves. It is as if we are committing suicide. Of course, the Atman cannot be killed. What is meant by killing the Atman? If we don't understand the spiritual potential, that is Atman, that is what is meant by killing of the Atman. We are living in the plane of body, mind, enjoying and suffering, and we are moving towards destruction, as Krishna says here. And that is what is killing oneself. That is the real suicide. Not killing one's own body is not suicide, because he will be born again. So Krishna becomes suddenly very serious here. He says, this is the path of destruction. If you don't control your senses, you have to live like any animal. Self-destruction, it is called self-will. Nobody is responsible for our destruction. We are destroying our life, ourselves. That is why the scriptures like Gita, Upanishad, the Gospel of Ramakrishna, the reading of and contemplation on them are very, very important in our life. They show us what is good for us, what is bad for us. They show the path of goodness. They warn us, cautions about the path of the destruction. In contrast, Krishna speaks about the man who is free from the raga and dvesha. We have already discussed this point. All the problems of the human mind can be summarized into two passions. One is raga, another is dvesha. Attachment, extreme attachment towards something is called raga. And because I like that experience, I like that person, I like that object, I want more and more of it. In other cases, I despise it. I don't want it. I don't want the experience to recur. If somebody abuses me, I don't want that experience again. I develop hatred towards that person who abuses me. Who is the sufferer then? That man is quite happy, living quite happily. It is we suffer in our mind because of our hatred towards him or the her. Ultimately, we are the sufferers by our own passions of raga and dvesha. Suppose if we can give up raga and dvesha by following the instructions or the teachings of the Gita that he has enumerated in the shloka number 61, just we have read. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Such a person, how he enjoys his life, how he will be in the blissful condition, that is told in the shloka number 64. The shloka number 61 and the 64 are to be connected here. Raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaihi charan atmavashyehi vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. So the very good word has come out from here. Prasada. We all like prasada. And Krishna teaches what is real prasada. So if you want to have real prasada, we should be free from raga and the dvesha. We cannot avoid our senses going towards the objects. We are leading a normal life. We cannot be always in the meditative state of mind. Indriyas are moving in midst of the objects. There are hundreds of things to see. I am moving in between. I cannot but see them. I cannot close my eyes. I cannot close my ears. I won't hear that. No, you can't do it. So that is what is here. Indriyaihi vishayaihi charan. So indriyas are moving in the midst of the vishaya or the objects. Indriyas are always approaching, having contact with the vishayas or the objects. The eye is seeing something, ear is hearing something, we are touching something, we are tasting something, we are smelling something, we cannot avoid it. But what we can do is to remove or eradicate the feeling of attachment and the aversion towards the objects of senses. I see something, immediately I develop either attraction or aversion. That is the problem. That is the problem. Both attraction as well as aversion will create a bondage. That is bondage to the Atman, bondage to oneself. That is what is samsara. If we can but see everything with equal sightedness, samatvam yoga uchyate. I am not attracted towards it, neither I hate it. I see everything as they are. Good dish, I relished it, wonderful. But I have no attachment. I don't want it, that dish again and again to eat. Neither I hate it. Today I had a very terrible experience. I don't hate it. If I hate it, then there will be problem. If I get attached to it, then there will be problem. Just experience in an objective manner. Objective means as they are. Oh, it is good, okay. It is bad, okay. So that is what is meant by Vishayan Indriyaihi Vishayan Charan. The Indriyas are moving in the midst of the objects and Indriyas are approaching the objects. That we cannot help it. What we can do, we can allow the Indriyas to go about and have contact with the objects. But we should be free from any kind of attachment or the aversion towards those experiences. That is the only way to blissfulness. Then that is how we have to behave externally. This is the external aspect of this sadhana. We should go on experiencing the things of the world, allow the indriyas to go about touching or contacting the objects, hearing, seeing. We should continue to do hearing, seeing, tasting, everything, but without any attachment or aversion. This attachment and aversion are the causes of the misery, dukkha. This is what is samsara. This is the external aspect of the sadhana. A spiritual person who is a meditative person, one who is good in meditation, adept in meditation, just accepts everything as they are. Today I didn't get my coffee in the morning. It's wonderful. Perfectly all right with me. Today there was no salt in food. That's also good. Next day the food is very good, very delicious. That is also fine. No raga, no dvesha. Very impossible, Swami. We can't do it. Then we have to suffer. All sadhana is very, very difficult. But without that sadhana, without that yoga, we cannot end the suffering. Suffering is due to raga and dvesha. The best way is to experience everything keeping our mind on God. As Lord has already instructed us, matparaha, matparaha. What is the essence of your life? To what you should aim at? What is your goal? God, God, God. Until I reach the God, I may have to endure so many things. I may have to experience so many things, good, bad, ugly, everything I accept as the gift from the God, and I continue to live for the sake of God. This is the life, spiritual life, Gita is instructing to us. This is the external aspect. Then what is the internal aspect of this sadhana? The internal aspect of this sadhana is we should subordinate the mind. Mind should be under our control. Atmavashyehi vidheyatma. Atmavashyehi vidheyatma prasadham adhigacchati. Vidheyatma. A disciplined mind. Mind should be a slave to us. We should not become slave to our mind. The first and fundamental thing Vedanta teaches us is we are not mind. We are not mind. I am not mind. So, mind is an instrument. I have a car is an instrument. I can drive the car as to my liking. So, I had to able to control the mind as to my liking. I cannot be dictated by the mind. In fact, it is I who has to dictate the mind. Vidheyatma. Atmavashyehi. Atma here means mind. The mind. Atma or the mind should be under control. Senses should be under the control of the mind, and mind should be under my control. So there are two stages here. Atmavashyehi means indriyas are to be under my control. That is the first step. That is control of mind. And mind should be under my control. And with that, you can approach the sense objects. There will be no problem at all. Because we cannot shut our eyes or close our ears. We cannot do that. We have to be continuing to experience the objects. How to enjoy the life, Krishna is teaching us. The first external aspect is to approach everything without attachment, without hatred, and keeping the senses under the control of the mind and keeping the mind under control, our control. We have to direct the mind. Mind should not direct us. Atmavashyehi vidheyatma. Atmavashyehi indriyaihi vidheyatma. There are two things. Vidheyatma means disciplined mind. Atmavashyehi indriyaihi means the senses to be under control of the mind. Atma here means the mind, two aspects. That is the internal aspect of the sadhana. Then one can dream of, one can achieve prasada. Prasadam adhigacchati. Prasada means serenity, tranquility, peace of mind, the contentment, prasannata swasthyam. Shankaracharya says, when our body is very healthy, we say we are in arogya, I am very healthy. So our mind should be healthy. Mind will be healthy when we are devoid of, when we have removed all kinds of passions, raga and dvesha. So when mind is free from all kinds of evil dispositions, propensities, then that state of mind is called prasannata, prasada. Prasanna we know, the state of mind which is in this state, it is in prasannata state, that state is called the prasada. How to attain it? The external factor, internal aspect of sadhana, Krishna teaches in this wonderful shloka. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.